Hey, what's happening? This is Snake from Skid Row, and you are listening to the one and only Australian rock show. Turn it up.
Snake, it's Dennis from the Australian Rock Show. How are you?
Doing amazing. I'm doing really, really great. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Let's rip straight into it and talk about Skid Row circa 2018. And firstly, I'd like to know if there's a release date for the third and final instalment of the United World Rebellion series, which features new vocalist ZP Theart.
There is no release date yet. We're still in the midst of writing it. We're going in to start pre-production in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, with Michael Wagner. It's the beginning of the pre-production, so we're going to start working on a bunch of the songs. But Rachel and I still have a bunch of writing left to do, and a bunch of unfinished ideas that we've got to that we're really high on, that we want to make sure that we give it ample time to see them through.
The first two releases contained great takes of songs by Priest and Aerosmith and Queen.
Oh,
Can
thanks.
you give us a clue? Can you give us a clue, if any, of what covers might be on Chapter 3?
Man, we don't even know if we're going to put covers on it. We did that just out of, for something fun to do and pay homage to some of our heroes. Obviously, we have a ridiculous amount of influences in our lives musically. And so to just pick one would be, ridiculous. One, or in our case, we've done 4 different artists so far. For us, it's really about making the best record possible at that particular time. So if that means that this record that we don't have covers on it and it's just 12 originals, then so be it. If while we're in the process of putting this together, we go, man, let's do this song or that song, then cool. The great thing is that this is all about enjoying the process, being as creative as possible, and capturing where we are at this point in our lives, and hoping that it resonates with people.
But just going on from that, and I guess ZP is not really a new vocalist anymore. He's been in a couple of years, but he seems, from a fan's perspective, he seems to have brought with him a lot of positive energy and enthusiasm, and obviously always big shoes to fill, but a lot of positive energy.
Boy, you're not kidding. I mean, it's such a welcome change. He is just naturally a positive guy. I know him only for the last few years, and it's really difficult to find that guy in a bad mood. And he is one of those people who has such a positive outlook on everything. It's infectious. It has a great effect on those around him. And he seems to be always about the group, like what's best for all of us, not what's best for me as the singer of Skid Row, as ZP. It's like, what can we do to make Skid Row more visible, more relevant, more accessible, more successful, and it's always about us. What can we do? It's never singular. He's not self-serving at all, and he's also is extremely respectful of our history, and does his best to honor that every night on stage. I admire that a lot. People could take this position and they could utilize it strictly for their own personal gain, and and not be concerned about the legacy or the longevity of the band itself. It's not a springboard for his ego. It's an outlet for his art.
Skid Row are jetting back down under in October, and I know you must have fond memories of that first Australian tour back in May of 1990. Pretty crazy times back then.
it was surreal to say the least. You know, we kind of all grew up in these little small towns, right? I grew up in a little town called Sayreville, New Jersey, and it's no different than any other small town across the United States. We're in somewhat close proximity to New York City, which was amazing, but by and large, we're just a small blue collar working class town, and so the idea of going to somewhere like Australia as a kid it's a pipe dream. It's not steeped in any sort of reality whatsoever. Then to have the opportunity to go on what was just a name on a map to us as kids, as young adults, to be able to go there. And I believe we did 7 shows then, if I'm not mistaken. And to spend that amount of time there and experience the culture and the people and how happy everybody was and how outgoing everybody was. And we have our guard up as young men traveling around the world. You have your guard up. You don't know who to trust. I mean, we're stupid kids, but still, you don't know who to trust.
Sure.
But everybody down there was just amazing. I mean, it was my fondest memories are of us traveling to Australia. And obviously, we've been there numerous times, and I've also been there and with bands that I manage and stuff. And so there has never been a time where I've left going, wow, I never want to do that again. It's always, my God, when can we get back here? And just the way that people view life, they live life, they don't live to work, they work to live, and it's really it's always been an enjoyable experience for us. The support has always been great from the audience, and it's a shame that it's so far away, because if it wasn't so far away, trust me, we would be there a lot more. But to be able to have the privilege to come back there numerous times is really, it's humbling. It's a gift.
That's wonderful to hear. And I want to throw something at you now. I think what separates, in my opinion, Skid Row from many other late 80s hard rock bands is that punk influence. And from a fan's perspective who possibly analyses things too much, I reckon if you and Rachel wrote a couple of songs with a guy like Mike Ness from Social Distortion, the results, could be amazing. Is that wishful thinking on my part? Has anyone ever thrown that idea at you before?
Well, I mean, no one's ever thrown that idea. And that would be an honor. I have great respect for Mike Ness. And, the punk influence band, truth be told, comes from Rachel. And it's interesting. We didn't grow up together. We met each other when we were in our early 20s, but got to know each other really fast. We hit it off amazingly, and so we just started hanging out and started writing songs together. That was the basis of this band, was built around Rachel and I writing songs together. And you have these conversations. You're riding around in your car. You're listening to different records and stuff like that. And we found, we had common ground in Kiss and Aerosmith and Judas Priest and Cheap Trick and Nugent and stuff like that. And then, but he was into a lot of the original punk rock. The Ramones, the Sex Pistols, the Tough Darts, the Damned, the Clash, and where I grew up, we were very familiar with, especially the Ramones. I mean, I was 45 minutes out of New York City, and CBGB's was legendary as a kid. But I tended to lean more towards new metal when that started filtering into the United States. And a lot of those bands, the Iron Maiden, Tigers of Pentang, Samson, and all those bands. So I started more towards there. He was leaning more towards the Pistols and the Ramones and whatnot. So when we got together, he sort of ignited my fuse, if you will, with regard to those bands, and reintroduced me to them, and thus he had much more of that influence in him than, say, I did. So that's what he would bring. Part of what he would bring to the table when we would sit down, and part of what I would bring would be that not the opposite, but that heavy metal portion of our writing, if you will. So he brought the Ramones in, and I brought Iron Maiden in, and somehow we met somewhere in the middle of where Kiss and Aerosmith and lie.
It's a good
to be able to sit down and write with a person like Mike Ness would be amazing. I mean, I wish that we had the opportunity to, when we were younger, to write with the Ramones. Doing psychotherapy on Beside Ourselves was amazing, but to have him in the video, Joey Ramone in the video, was just an absolute honor, and to be recognized and acknowledged by those guys was just over the top. One of those things where you wish for as a kid, but you don't really think it's ever going to happen. So I kind of went away from the original question, but
no, that's fine. And a spin-off for that is, I've always wondered how the band would sound if, say, Ed Stasium or Daniel Ray or somebody who worked with the Ramones, what they could do with Skid Row. So,
I've known Daniel Ray for, gosh, I first met Daniel Ray before Skid Row started. He was a friend of mine. He was a friend of a friend of mine who was A&R person for Elektra Records, Michael Alago. And so I met Daniel through Michael Alago. And he was just the sweetest guy. And unbeknownst to me, I had, when I was a youngster, going to different clubs in New York and New Jersey, I saw Daniel Ray's band that he was the guitar player in play at the Fast Lane in Asbury Park when I was like 15 years old. I had no idea. And it's weird how these roads, collide, these paths collide. And Daniel had a great deal to do with cementing the legacy of the Ramones, I think. Obviously, he's played a big part in whom they were as an entity. And so to write with Daniel Ray, it's funny. I would love to put, simply said, it would be an honor, of course. And say Ed Stasium too. I mean, my gosh, what an amazing producer.
We could talk about the Ramones all morning, but time is limited. Snake, every guest on our show gets to choose a song by an Australian band. Something special to them. What would you like to choose, and why?
Ooh, this is off the beat. I mean, usually I'm sure everyone chooses an AC/DC or a Rose Tattoo song. Is that true?
Correct.
I'm going to choose the Divinyls, Boys in Town. I remember seeing them when that first came out, and I apologize because I don't remember the singer's name.
Christina Amphlett.
That's right, Christina Amphlett. Her and the guitar player seemed so quirky and awkward, but so cool. I mean, that song came out, I guess, in 1982. It was one of those first songs that I saw on MTV, and she was completely different from any other female that was fronting a band that I had seen before. So I was 17 at that time, so it really, being that I was completely ensconced in heavy metal, and that caught my attention because it was, to me, very, very original and a great pop song without being a pop band. Like, they didn't come across as a pop band. Does that make sense?
Wonderful choice. We could talk all morning. Thank you for your time. Look forward to the shows later in this year. Really appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. I hope to see you down there.